Welcome to BeerNet Radio. Listen to on every continent except Antarctica. BeerNet Radio.
Got issues with chords. You don't know. You don't even care. You don't even care about my chords, Jordan.
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to get a little more lighting.
Your lighting's fine. Where's Jen? Is she not coming on this podcast?
No, I was just talking to her.
Katie Beal Brown.
Hi, guys.
There she
Hey.
is.
Look at this podcast background upgrade.
Let me tell you something, Katie Beal Brown, if that's even your real name. Let me tell you something.
It's a nice stage name.
Yeah. I love Jen's logging in as me. Nothing works over here. Katie, thanks for being on and welcome to BeerNet Radio, where all your dreams come true.
Let's hope so.
You're scaring her, Harry.
I know. So, hello, Nicole. How are you? So, this is I believe your second time on BeerNet Radio. Is that right?
Yep.
Welcome back. So, of course, Katie Beal Brown is the founder of Lone River Ranch Water, one of the first and leading ranch waters out there. And they've come out with some innovations since then. And she's been working with Diageo, and they're involved with Yellowstone. But before we get into all of that, Katie Beal Brown, if indeed that is your name, I don't know why I keep saying that. We'll Jen, maybe cut that in post.
Look, I'm happy to claim it as a stage name.
It's not a stage name, but it's such a cool name. It should be a stage name. All right, so I'm going to start off with a question. Jen made one of the greatest observations on the podcast last week. And if you haven't tuned in, it was 2 weeks ago. Haven't tuned in. It's just us grokking, talking about RTDs, talking about seltzers, talking about And Jen goes, isn't it weird that we created malt-based seltzers to imitate a vodka soda, and then the vodka people created liquor vodka sodas to imitate malt seltzers, and then the malt seltzers are now creating spirit-based seltzers, So, I mean, everybody's following each other, but we're all just after whatever the original drink was, which is a vodka soda. So, I mean, what do you make of that theory? And because let me tell you the corollary of that theory, and that is that the reason it took, I think, everybody maybe a year too long to get into RTD tequila ranch water type things is because of Katie Beal Brown. And you had already gotten there first with malt based, and so everybody's like, well, shit, we want to really compete. And so that's kind of where we're going with our little theory. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I am an avid listener of the podcast. So I did tune in.
Apparently not that avid.
It's great while I'm traveling. So I think we're at a point where hard seltzer as a whole has kind of hit the maturation point. So I think we first started to see, as it hit the maturation, there was like a diversification in flavors on the malt side. So that was the emergence of like this agave style seltzer category, really, getting beyond the vodka style malt based products that had existed and leaning more into that agave tequila inspired flavor. And then, I think we're also, as we hit that maturation point, we're getting into premiumization. So the premiumization, I think, has happened in a couple of ways. So you've seen on the malt side, there's been premiumization of ingredients like real juice. I mean, we always formulated that way. You see now brands like Truly are reformulating that way to meet this kind of premiumization interest of the consumer, premiumizing with more interesting flavors like the agave style flavors, but also premiumizing with these more authentic brands versus, I think the category started to feel a bit commoditized to the consumer. So when I think about why did it take so long for brands to start to migrate into RTDs with tequila, the tequila side of the malt part of the category is still very much in its infancy. I mean, right now we are driving 100% of the growth in hard seltzer, but it is still growing. So And there's a lot of room to grow. I mean, we are a top 10 hard seltzer brand, but we're still 22 points on average category weighted distribution below all of our competitors. So there's
That's
a lot
good
of
place
room.
to be.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I'd like for it to be a little higher.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of room to grow in terms of awareness, in terms of availability to the consumer on the malt side. And we haven't really hit that maturation point yet that has caused, the migration over to RTDs, even though I do think, obviously there are brands headed in that direction. But from what I've seen, real spirits is just another aspect of the premiumization that's happening. And so that's kind of how I'm looking at this from a macro perspective, but also just thinking about, our future as an industry. I think it's really important about how we go into this next phase for the total category and ensuring that the way that we're approaching it is truly incremental for all of our businesses. And I think the challenge with some of the innovation that's being introduced, when you think about the broader trend of consumers are looking to drink better, a lot of these brands are introducing an RTD and they're really leaning so heavily on the claim of real spirits. They may not be offering the consumer much more value beyond that to command that premiumization of that side of the category and really look to, again, like create an incremental segment out of it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yes, that does make a lot of sense because, and I think you're right. How far can you stretch a brand? Also is it, I think tequila is kind of hard to source. I mean, you have to get it from Mexico, and it's but that's an interesting take, and I want to give Jordan shouts too because he's actually the one that came up with that corollary that malt based agave products were a little late. And
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna let you take that one. You took credit for it. I was like, you go for it, Harry.
I have enough accomplishments. I don't need to take credit for everybody else's, but I still do,
But I still do. Hey, let me, before Harry takes this train off the tracks, let me ask you, Katie, everything that you just said about premiumization and spirits and that sort of thing, it all begs the question, and I've been wanting to ask you, I'm curious what you think of Boston's Loma Vida tequila seltzer, right? I mean, they've had a lot of success as a fast follower in other segments. This looks a lot like what you guys did with some of the branding. I'm not trying to throw shade. Curious on your thoughts. I mean, is this good for you, right? Because it helps build out the category theoretically more, even though it's a different base. Or what thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it was only a matter of time before Boston beer entered the category. And we've always welcomed competition. I think for this category to really grow to its full potential, it's going to take the investment of multiple brands. So, while we set out to do this, obviously with the purpose of kind of celebrating where we come from in far West Texas and the origins of ranch water, we never imagined at that point that we would create this entirely new category and almost become like the David to the Goliaths of all these brands in the category. But, they say imitation is the best form of flattery, yada, yada. It's interesting to see now that a lot of big brands have entered this space. I think each of them have kind of taken an aspect of what we've done and pulled it through to their innovation. But I don't think anyone has really been able to bring to life the full vision and bring it all together. And so because of that, I think that's why, again, I mean, if you look at us on paper, we shouldn't be winning against these big brands, especially in the early days. I mean, we were wildly underinvesting versus a lot of these big brands in the category. But I think we continue to win because we're driving that vision, not just for our brand, but for the broader category as a whole. And we really, the vision is much bigger than just a flavor. We feel like this is, in a way, like a lifestyle brand. And I think a lot of the bigger brands that have entered the space have kind of missed that aspect of it.
Right. And talking about all these other brands entering the space, and in the early days having competed with much larger, brands and companies, now obviously you guys are with Diageo.
Mhm.
And I'm super curious. I'm sure you're very happy about that right now, considering everybody has dogpiled on the industry from outside the industry, right? I mean, how does this continued consolidation affect your business? Challenges, opportunities?
Yeah, so I think, the Diageo partnership for us was very serendipitous, but a really, really good fit. I think Diageo is really known to be brand builders, and that is obviously my background coming from advertising is building a brand. And so we've now, been able to tap into a huge amount of resources to help us build on that foundation of the brand that we had created in Lone River. And then, beyond that, as I talked about kind of the next stage of the category, no one knows how to premiumize better than Diageo. They've done it for decades. They've done it across numerous different segments. So, I think that is really where the strength of this partnership will come into play as we look to the future, is how do we continue to premiumize and provide, the real value to consumers.
Yeah. And as a follow-up real briefly, I just remembered I was watching Golden Bars, I guess it was last month now. Was it a month ago? Gosh,
I know, it's been a whirlwind.
It's so crazy. But the way things were presented almost seemed to me like Lone River is now almost the platform for Diageo's RTD products, even though they have a lot of other RTD products. Is that fair? Or like, how do they separate them or segment them, or do they?
I mean, look, I would love to take all the credit for that. But, Diageo has a powerhouse full of brands that they can pull into this space. So I certainly don't think that we will be, the one kind of driving that charge as a whole. There's a lot of opportunity here that hasn't even been realized yet. I think what's interesting about us, right, is because we came in through Diageo Beer Company. So we sit in a very unique...
Shouts.
Beer
Company. Don't let those spirits guys
I
corrupt
love
you.
The beer business. I feel like in a way I was meant to be, I never thought this would be the case, but I was like meant to be part of the beer business. It's
You clearly were.
Family run companies. Like,
yeah.
I feel very much at home here. And so we're in a very unique position. We're on the beer side of the business, but we have, obviously a lot of connection into the spirit side. So I think that there is a lot of power in that, especially as you think about the evolution of reaching consumers with these propositions and what that looks like for the future. So I do think we will almost become a test case brand for what that looks like for Diageo as a whole, but that's certainly not to say that we will lead their total RTD portfolio. There's a lot of brands that are bigger than us.
Well,
Katie,
I'll just make one quick statement, and then you can ask the question. People sometimes forget that Diageo created this segment with Smirnoff Ice, and when I don't think people also realize the gymnastics that Diageo had to go through at the time to get Smirnoff Ice categorized as a beer for tax and trade purposes. And there was a guy named Gary Galanis who was there in government relations there. He worked for Guy worked for Clinton.
Smith.
Thank you. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna fix this in post. But he worked for Guy Smith, who was very connected with the Clinton administration, and then became head of government relations and communications for Diageo. The point of all this is that it was not a foregone conclusion, and there was a lot of lobbying that went down, and the 50% rule and the mix between malt and what is actually liquor. Anyway, they got it through. And Gary was a big part of that, and God bless him. He died young, but the beer distributors should have a shrine in their warehouse for Gary Galanis, because if all of this went through liquor wholesalers right now, the beer guy, think of how kind of screwed the beer distributors would be, because not having a dog in this fight. So that's
Right.
my tangent. I may cut it in post because it's boring.
Well, no, I mean, I think though it's an interesting point because, I know you guys covered him. I had dinner with Ty Gilmore at MBWA just kind of to catch up. And it was interesting because he was talking about when he was at Diageo as they were launching Smirnoff Ice. And the history of that is really fascinating to me. And I've been really digging in to try to see if there's any parallels in what we can learn for the evolution of seltzer at this point, and kind of what we think will happen in this next phase. But you're right. I mean, Diageo, they really pioneered this space as a whole. So they're certainly going to lead it into the future as well.
Well, and when you say that, go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to that. But I wanted to go back to kind of what we were talking about in the beginning and on competition.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the pace of actual ranch water launches slow down?
No, not really. I mean, I feel like there has been one announced probably every month. So I think it's just honestly getting more and more interesting as we continue on. And especially as you start to see kind of the diversification of those products into the tequila side of things. So I don't think it's slowed.
Right. Well, I asked because I'm wondering, is your stiffest competition coming from competing ranch waters or more tequila-based, tequila-like RTDs nowadays?
So we are currently leading the category in total, so across malt and spirits. And there still is a significant share gap between us and our nearest competitors at a national level. So, I think the pace of growth is still on the malt side as well. That's not to say that that won't evolve over the next few years. But again, when you look at, if we're leading the category and you look at where we are from a distribution perspective, I think there's still a lot of run room there, and a lot of incremental potential that hasn't really fully been realized yet.
Yeah. Okay. And so I'm sure you're getting the question a bunch of, when will you do a tequila based RTD? When will you get into spirits? Is that kind of like the call for you, is once that opportunity, that distribution growth has kind of maybe disappeared, or maybe you've realized all of it? Is that when you might possibly think about doing something like that?
So it's a good question, and I'm going to answer this in kind of a different way, because it isn't a straight answer for us. We created Lone River in a kind of classic way to build a brand, which is by building it in providing meaningful differentiation, meaning the consumer will buy something if it feels differentiated to them in a way that's also meaningful to them. So as we think about innovation, in my mind, it's not just about malt versus spirits. It's about conceptually, whatever we bring to market and how we build the future of the business, how can we continue to provide that meaningful differentiation for these categories so that we're bringing something to market that is truly incremental and delivering value to the consumer. So I think, obviously that's not a direct answer, but it is something that we've talked about in a lot of different aspects, a lot of different formats. And, RTD may be a way that we lean into that meaningful differentiation, but it may be something else. So I think there is something a little bit dangerous that's happening as we see the migration from seltzer to RTDs right now, in the risk that it may feel commoditized in the way that it's being brought to market. Like these brands just, again, leaning on only real spirits, not thinking about the broader picture for the consumers and how to really premiumize that space as a whole beyond real spirits. So that's where I personally think the opportunity is.
So is meaningful differentiation, I mean, what does it actually mean? Can that change? Is it mostly your brand, or can it be like functional attributes? Or because I'm curious, because you said that twice now and I'm thinking like, okay, beyond spirits, but what does that mean? Is it just a strong brand?
It's a little bit of everything. So the brand is certainly a big piece of it, but it's the way that we innovate and the products that we bring to market. We were a challenger brand when we came to market. We want to continue to challenge different segments and categories to offer the consumer a better choice, because if consumers are drinking better, we want to be a part of that broader trend and offer them something better as a whole. So really, it could be format, it could be liquid, it could be evolution of the brand. It's really kind of an aspect of all of those things together.
Are there more cocktails or like kind of West Texas plays that aren't necessarily tequila like that you could see Lone River getting into?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you think about the Western lifestyle, but also a lot of the taste and traditions of Texas, I'm sure you guys can come up with a couple of spaces that feel interesting just in those two areas. I'm not saying that we are, announcing an innovation in this space, but it was interesting looking at some of our source of volume, and we actually over-index with whiskey drinkers. So to me, that was an indicator that the lifestyle has a lot of similarities, not necessarily the taste profiles. So again, when you're looking at building a brand from a lifestyle perspective, I do think it keeps that aperture very open when you look at innovation.
And, the Western kind of culture and lifestyle happens to be very popular right now. Like, and it comes in waves. Like, it's been popular probably 3 or 4 times in my lifetime. And, remember like when Australia was everything in the 80s, like you couldn't get away from Australia. It was all, hello, mate. Yeah. That guy, Crocodile Dundee. Yeah. But I'm not, but Yellowstone has a lot to do with that, but also just, people, I think after COVID, just getting back to roots, getting back to the land, that kind of, those kind of themes are popular. And, I think one of the things that you guys have been good is because it's authentic, and you actually, even if that is your real name, Katie Beal, but you are, you actually do have a ranch in West Texas. I have looked it up. I am a journalist. And
He's got it on Google Maps.
I have confirmed that Katie, this is an authentic brand, and she has.
Oh, we need to get you guys out there.
Yes, we could have the drinkers out there.
It's way too far.
I mean, it's a trek. If you're willing to come, we're willing to have you.
We'll bust them out.
No, it's too far. I'd love to go, Katie, but they're gonna have to build an airport. But it's cool, and I like that it's lifestyle, not agave, because there are so many other things. And Ranch Water was such not to take away from your talents, but it was a slam dunk at a perfect timing. And
well, it's very telegraphic.
This is why I'm glad we have editing afterwards, because I'm a good writer and a terrible broadcaster.
But I think Ranch Water, I think what you're trying to say is like the name itself of the cocktail is very telegraphic of a lifestyle. Yes. So we've just really worked to bring that lifestyle to life in an authentic way, but also a way that resonates with a lot of different consumers that maybe have never experienced the Western lifestyle. So that's where, connecting to those bigger cultural things like Yellowstone, like country music is really important for us as we, grow awareness, because there's people across the country that maybe have never stepped foot on a ranch, but they may be interested in some of these other cultural aspects of the lifestyle.
And the country music partnership that you guys have is huge. Miranda Lambert. I don't really like country music, but I love Miranda Lambert.
And okay.
Millicent,
who doesn't?
Millicent is going to be thrilled, because Millicent she patterns her life after Miranda Lambert, which is basically just a mess, right? She's just a hot mess.
Dancing on bars, drinking
just
tequila.
Hair everywhere, just keying men's cars, and I mean, it's perfect for her lifestyle. Hopefully, when she was younger, I don't think she's still keying people's cars, but
You never know.
You never know.
But how did you guys link up? How did that partnership come about?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of Miranda Lambert's as well. But given kind of my connection to Texas, it just felt like she got her start in our own Texas bars. And she has been so rooted in this area. But, you know, she's also been a big part of popularizing country music and extending its reach way beyond the traditional audience. I mean, she was just named one of Time Magazine's most influential women. And a lot of that is because of what she's done to really bring in this more diverse audience to country music. So when we think about what we're trying to do as a brand and where we come from, I think the spirit of the partnership just felt very right when you look at those two things.
Well, my last question, and then I will cede the mic. What can you share about Diageo USA's new chief, right? I haven't met him, but he seems exciting, you know, coming from not beer, but maybe that's what beer needs. And so what are your initial impressions?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very impressed by him, not just because he's an Astros fan.
And what's his name? Let's for listeners at home.
Rodney.
Yes. And what's his background, Rodney?
So he comes from, and I love actually that you mentioned that, because as we talk about the future of beer and, you know, the evolution of a lot of these spaces and consumers, you know, kind of taste and behaviors, his experience is very interesting because he has actually worked across a lot of different parts of the industry in wine and spirits, et cetera. And so he's bringing that lens to the business. And I think it'll be really beneficial as we think about future-proofing our business in a way. But also, you know, as I've gotten to know him, he's an incredible storyteller, and he's really taken the time to get to the heart of our brands in the short time that he's been here so far. I mean, he's already been out to Dublin to visit the home of Guinness and really drill down into that story and the origin. And he'll be coming out to West Texas. And he's just been very curious about kind of the genesis of our brands, where they come from, what they stand for, and ensuring that we have the right platform to peel back the onion on those stories in a way that maybe we haven't done as much of in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, Rodney Williams, really excited to have him on board. I will be getting him to Texas, so we will certainly be sure that you guys are a stop on that trip.
Nice. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and Katie, maybe call before 8 p.m. for a 9 p.m. meeting. Jeez.
We'll try.
No
Katie
promises.
rolls into town. She's like, "Hey, I'm going to be at this hotel at 10 p.m. You want to meet for a drink?" I'm like, "No, I love you, Katie."
You guys are in the beer business. You're out drinking.
I know.
So
We had just been to a Harry Styles concert, so everybody was exhausted. Otherwise, we would have jumped at it.
Katie, I have one more, and it has nothing to do with beer. So I think I told you my husband and my son were at the Astros game on Saturday, and my husband is a huge Phillies fan. So he's brainwashed my poor son into being a Phillies fan. So they were there in the midst of all the Astros fans, and Bill says they were actually very nice to baby Billy, who's 6, right? He was doing that, but they were giving him Dippin' Dots and everything. This whole, I shouldn't even say this, but
I mean, it had to have been a tough crowd for them, I can only imagine.
Well, but so this is the point, and Harry, you can cut this in post. I just thought this was hilarious because I know Katie is such a huge Astros fan. Yesterday, Bill told me, wow, I saw that there was a parade for, Harry, I've turned into you. I forget everything.
For
Who's
the Astros. Oh, Ryan Presley, the pitcher. Is this
No. Who's the guy? Cancun Cruz, Ted Cruz. Yeah. There was a parade for Ted Cruz in Houston yesterday.
Who's throwing parades for Ted Cruz?
Well, but here's the funny thing. They booed him mercilessly, and Bill was like, I didn't get booed as a Phillies fan at an Astros game, but they're booing Ted Cruz in Houston.
I know.
That is
For-
amazing.
For a politician
I
to
actually
keep winning
read that.
elections, he sure is very disliked. Like I don't understand why he keeps getting elected in landslides. And apparently nobody likes him. Like not even his colleagues, you know?
So
I mean,
sorry. I mean,
Not even
it is
Philly
election day.
therapist
So
food.
It is election day. Should I go vote? Oh God.
you haven't
Why-
voted?
No,
Gotta
it's
vote, Harry.
Yeah.
why? I mean, I know I'm going very contrarian here. Like it's your duty, it's your civic duty, but do I really want to go stand in a line when I might have to make a
I
duty?
feel like everyone early voted. Today is probably fast.
I early voted.
Yeah, welcome to San Antonio. Trust me, everybody here waited.
Manana syndrome.
Yeah,
Poor
because
work
people here
people are out
they forget that they're American citizens. Like half the time we think we're part of Mexico. I would rather vote in the Mexican elections. It has more effect on my life. So,
Why you guys have
that's
such good food?
Right.
yeah.
It has more effect on your life because it has more effect on Constellation's brewery. So yes,
Yeah.
it does have more effect on our lives.
I know. I love when I mean this is I don't love it. It's terrible, but Constellation had to buy like a fleet of helicopters because it was too dangerous to drive from here to Nava to get to the brewery.
No.
Because all the drug lords. So they put.
Okay, we'll definitely
Yeah,
cut that in
Yellowstone.
post.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, hey, you want to go down to the brewery? I'm like, fuck no. Are you kidding? I don't want to get killed. They're like, oh no, we have a Jet Bell helicopter now that'll take you down there. I'm like, oh, okay, then yes.
I'll be there.
I'll do it just for the helicopter ride. Are you kidding?
Right.
That's
Well,
I don't know if that's that much safer, honestly.
what a helicopter ride to deep into Mexico? I don't understand what you mean.
Simon, you should just hop on Simon Bergson's jet. He goes.
Simon has a. Did anybody, Jordan? Have you not commented that? Did you see that Simon has a ponytail
I missed it.
at the Mike's meeting?
No, I
Everybody's
missed that.
going nuts. The whole beer industry is going crazy. I mean, we've got beer distributors acting like craft brewers. We got craft brewers trying to act like they're rich and wearing suits. I mean, it's just everything's.
I
everything's
loved
upside-
y'all's download of the Mike's meeting.
Yeah. Oh God.
Tyler
were you-
usually listens to it before me. And so he texted me. He's like, this is a good one.
Well, I'm surprised. I mean, can you even hear what we were saying? I mean, the audio was so bad.
Well, the whole commentary on how they refer to other companies and brands
Oh,
Yes.
was just really funny.
Anthony Von Mandel can deflate the reputation of a competitor in the cruelest yet subtle way. And can you believe this? Can you believe they put this out in the market and let people drink it? They let people put this in their bodies. It
And like
should
the
be illegal.
intentional, like how they referred to Topo Chico as Topo Chico.
Yeah.
I'm just
Topo. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Oh, it's everybody calls it
like, just
Topo.
discreetly
Uh-huh.
throwing shade. I love it.
Oh, throwing shade is an art in this industry, and I
Mhm.
love it. I love it.
It
I'm not
was
afraid to
very
do it.
entertaining. Harry and I almost like had to excuse ourselves from the room a couple times because we were about to just bust out laughing.
And he's wearing
I
a
was like,
lab
it'd be
coat.
like a reality show of the behind the scenes of the beard. I mean,
Oh,
We
I mean-
do.
the
That's-
drama. I never imagined there would be this much drama.
Oh, we're like little 16-year-old girls at a
Totally.
dance. Like
And all the little backstories to the story. I mean, it's just once you open that up.
he was in a lab coat, Katie. So that gave him he's like stealing valor from doctors or lab technicians.
Stealing
Like,
valor.
he's in a lab coat as if listen, I'm not listen. Anthony Von Vandel is a legend and I just think it's great. But it was funny. Well, listen, Katie Beal Brown, Lone River Ranch Water. We love having you on. You're a repeat. What do we call this?
Wow.
Guest. And normally
What's that
Wait,
word?
that
You're a
again.
person.
person,
A regular.
a regular. Jen's. I'm normally rude to guests, but you must have this power, and I'm. But
I know. I was like, I'm going to be in the hot seat today. Who knows?
yeah, you were.
Last time you guys asked me how much we sold the company.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got to try,
okay.
Katie.
So, Katie, how much are you worth, and how big is your ranch? How many head of cattle do you have, and how many?
What's in your bank account right now?
Throwing it all out there.
Oh, good. Well, congratulations on your. I heard you had a baby or something, and
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
congratulations on that.
Jordan, our babies are like a week apart.
Yeah,
Aw.
this podcast is not about that, so let's get off that. I had to mention it to be courteous.
Oh, you know what? On that note, Jordan, I just Harry's not going to listen to this. We're going to get him a puppy for Christmas, Harry. So
talking
talking
about
about babies. Yeah,
No,
I didn't say that.
I took care of Wyatt's dog this weekend, who's a puppy, and he and I almost got into fisticuffs over it. So yeah, I don't
see that.
puppy. Well, I like old dogs. I'm an old dog. I got an old dog right here who's scared of the smoke machine. She's like cowering under my chair.
Machine. I'm like, maybe I need one of those for my Zoom meetings. Just fire out in the background. People are like,
definitely-
"Is your house on fire?" I'm like,
It
no.
Harry,
definitely
send
doesn't-
Katie some links.
I will. You know what? We're gonna link and build.
Like,
And the slow pan too. Send links for the very slow pan.
yeah.
you can set it to go
I should have
faster.
gotten my microphone out today too. I really it was a missed opportunity.
Did he send you one too, Katie?
I had to get one at one point, but I just get overwhelmed with like all of how to actually connect it. So
Oh, really? We haven't had that problem over here.
It's
I mean-
a running joke that Harry sends all of us all of this ridiculous equipment, dongles, bags of dongles. I've got like 5 microphones. I've hooked none of them up.
I know.
So I figured maybe he
Are
sent you
really a
one.
professional. I mean, at this point,
It's all wasted on these people. You know, I sent a text group, a Slack last night about let's improve our lighting, and as you can see, nobody got the
a
memo.
ring light. Yeah, you guys don't have ring lights.
I have a ring light. Look.
I have
Oh,
one
nice.
too.
Okay,
I need to come to Austin and teach you how to use it.
there you go.
You need to do
This
what's
is
called.
how you use it, right?
Let me explain it.
Oh, you're right. I need to
It's-
put it closer to the
looks
camera.
No,
weird with the ring in your eye.
Yeah.
It's called Rembrandt lighting. Do you see this? Do you see this little triangle of light on my left cheek?
Oh.
That's what it's supposed to come from one side. You get one side of your face lit. You get
Harry's
this
next
little
career.
triangle right. I took a 3-hour class on lighting just for this stupid ass podcast.
You seem real busy.
Hey,
Here we go.
I do this at night. Okay,
Whoa, I'm about to
His
break something
passion
over.
project.
it's my I don't.
Did
have
I get it?
I finally don't have little kids at home. And so I am just learning lighting, and I'm going to take a pottery class.
Getting a
and
puppy.
Getting a puppy,
Getting a puppy.
apparently.
If
All
I
this-
joke about it enough, it's gonna happen, and then Harry's
Well,
really gonna hate
At
me.
least wait till this old dog dies, which I don't know. It might be soon.
Oh, I got a question.
Who's going to be on next? Are you guys going to have the Montauk guys on?
Yeah.
Well, so funny story there. I had a call with them yesterday, and I was like, you know what? We can just turn this into a pod. But Terry was on his cell phone in the car, and it was cutting out, and like I was half afraid he was going to get in a wreck, which actually would have made for decent podding. But no,
wow.
next time.
Entertainment.
I like that Erwin Simon. I've looked into him, and he's the CEO of Tilray, who just
Yeah.
bought Montauk, and he used to own Celestial teas. You know those
Mhm.
teas that you have at night
Interesting.
for sleepy
Yes.
time and all
Yeah.
that.
And Whole Earth, and he's
Yeah.
a CPG vet.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
What
he's
they're
another.
doing is
He's another
very,
one
very
that
interesting.
he doesn't. He's not into categories. He's into lifestyle, kind of like what you
Mhm.
were talking about, Katie. He's like
Mhm.
that whole Celestial thing. It was all about health and wellness before that was cool. And so he had tea, he had a snack division, he had a lotion division. You know, everything was botanical and all that bullshit. that
Yeah,
people
yeah.
love. And so now he's doing this with cannabis, but it's not legal. So
Right.
he's pivoted to craft beer, just kind of in a holding pattern until it becomes legal, if and when. So,
I mean, I'm curious to see what their M&A looks like beyond
Mhm.
Montauk too.
but,
I
well, they
think they'll
have
buy
money
something
to
in
burn.
Texas,
I know
Texas.
you said that. I was like racking my brain. I'm like, who would
Central
it be?
U.S. I think,
It's
who
one of
knows?
those things where he has all this cash and he can't do anything with it. And
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? Put it in T-bills? I mean, I don't know. Interest rates are going up. I might circle back to T-bills here.
T-bills.
Well, we've had you on for way too long, Katie.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for being on.
Thank
We'll
you.
catch you down the road. Hopefully, are you coming to Florida in January?
Oh yeah. Are you kidding?
Oh,
I told the team about it. Everybody's like, oh, the Breakers? Sure, I'll be there.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, it's for those at home. We're talking about the summit, January 8th through 10th, and then stay an extra day and catch the Wine and Spirits
Rodney
Summit.
Williams will be there.
Yeah,
Good. We can meet
Good.
him.
I'd
Yeah.
love to meet him. And also, those who have signed up, go ahead and get your room because they are filling up as well. And if you haven't signed up, get your ticket because I'm thinking we'll probably be sold out before, Thanksgiving or the end of the year for sure. So get your ticket and don't forget to smash that like button and that subscribe. I'm just kidding. Don't smash anything. Don't like anything. Don't buy anything. Just renew your subscription. That's all I ask. That's the only ask here. Just
I
hit
support
that
this
renewal.
message.
I support this message. My name is Harry Schuhmacher, and I.
Paid for by Schumacher.
Run into
Publishing.
business.
All right,
Okay.
guys.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
Thanks, Katie.